Welcome to SolidCAM Professor. I'm Sydney, your SolidCAM Professor, and in this session, we'll be showing you the new and improved options that we've created in our turning operation. We'll start now a new operation in turning, and we'll choose turning. The interface is now a lot cleaner, as I've showed you in the previous operation. And we'll choose now my geometry. I want to actually now turn the outside of this part. So I'll use the option of solid to create my geometry. And I'll choose from this surface over here up until this surface over here. And I'll accept that. And as you can see now, my geometry now has been created. Next, I'll go into modify geometry and I'll extend my start automatically to the stock, and my end extension I'll have that at 5 millimeters. Next, I'll choose my tool, and I'll choose this tool that I've created, and of course we also have the tool angle. In this particular case, we have it over here. Now, in my technology area, you'll note again that we've done away with all these different buttons over here, which was confusing, and added them instead as different tabs on top to make the window a lot cleaner. Now, as for the work type, we have what we've had before, our rough, copy, or profile. When working rough, you see we have here our rough tab. If I were to do copy, you see this tab would change into copy, and the same thing with profile would change into semi-finish and finish. We'll keep it on rough, and as you can see, we have the same options that we had before. Now when we go into our rough tab, we have our step down as constant as we had before, but let's go back for a moment to rough type. In rough type now, we have three options. We've had smooth and stairs before, but we've also added on ramping. With the ramping, it actually ramps its way up every single time it goes from one end to the other, and then cleans that step. We'll actually see it a lot better once we do our simulation. Now, in my step down with ramping, it allows us to take larger cuts, so I'll choose it to work at 3 millimeters. In my semi-finish finish, I'll leave it exactly the way it was. This is exactly the way it was before. And in my strategies, we've now added pictures here which explains exactly each option here a lot clearer. So if I want to go into my slots, choose this one. If I don't, we'll choose that option over here. We'll choose right now this option over here. Now let's go into our next option, something we've added on now, called break edges. In break edges, as you can see in this part over here, we have an outside edge over here, which I can break into a chamfer or a radius, and the same thing as far as this internal area over here. So we have here internal corners and external corners. In my external corner, we can either do a chamfer or a fillet, and I'll choose, for this case, chamfer. And when I go for my chamfer parameters, I can either do angle and distance or distance and distance. Let's do angle and have it at 45. And my distance Z, I'll give it at 2 millimeters. Now, my internal corners, I'm going to have that go at a fillet, and I'll create a fillet of 3 millimeters. Now, let's take a look at our preview. We've added a preview button here as well. You can see in the preview, it shows us the exact chamfer that we're getting on the corner, and it'll also show us the fillet that we have on our internal sharp corner. Let's do save and calculate, and we'll run our simulation using the turning option for simulation. Now let's first do this one step at a time. My tool goes down in the proper place. Now when it goes in, you'll note that it went in on an angle. This is the ramping option. The major advantage of the ramping option is that previously, if you were going straight, the chip buildup would always be at one point, thereby causing a lot of wear and tear on the inserts and a lot higher rate of insert replacements. When you go in an angle like this, the chip displacement is created on different parts all the time, moves on the tool itself all the time, thereby causing less wear and tear on the insert. Now, when I go back and do my next step, you'll see now that it straightens out that step. What happens then, again, it does not keep the same chip load, and again now we can do the ramping. As you see now, we've also created the chamfer over there, and we've continued on. Now let's continue going on in this part. Let it run all the way. And as you see, it's doing this on the entire part. Now when we get down towards this area, you'll note it will not go into that slot because we chose not to go into it. And when we get down to this corner, you'll see that it will be creating a radius as it works its way around, as shown over here. Doing now its finish cut, cleaning up this entire area exactly the way I wanted it. In order to see the complete strength of our ramping option, I brought in a different part to demonstrate this on. As you can see in this part, this area has to be turned straight, whereas this one has to be ramped up, and this one area will be ramped actually into the material. Let's take a look at the simulation, and as you can see, the tool is working its way, as it did before, across and then ramping up every single time in the straight area. And that's exactly how it's going to work in this area as well. However, when it reaches this area, it'll actually ramp its way down into the material. Again, keeping a different contact point on the insert and preserving the insert itself to last longer. That's the full strength of the ramping in SolidCAM 2011. Another improvement was also made within turning is when we use a grooving tool. I'll create a geometry with my solid option, and I'll choose this wall here as my start and this wall here as my finish. Next, I'll choose my grooving tool and put it at the proper angle that's needed. Now let's go into my technology area. In my technology area, we have, as I've said before, rough, copy, and profile. And when using this option, we do not use compensation. Let's set our offsets also to 0.2 millimeters. Now, when we go into rough, we have our rough type smooth, stairs, or ramping. When using the option that I want to show you now, we have to use stairs. And I'll have my step down go down every 0.3 millimeters. Now, in my direction, we have one way or zigzag ramping. If I choose zigzag ramping, it'll actually go back and forth, ramping down every single time and work its way across, zigzagging back and forth in the part itself until it gets bottom, thereby also not creating too much pressure on these edges over here by changing the contact point. Now it's just cleaning off this area over here. It'll go back up and now clean off the other side. And that completes this operation. Thank you for joining us on SolidCAM Professor. Take care and have a nice day.